Hello everybody, this is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. And today I want to answer a question that was given to me by one of my Patreon subscribers. So by the way, go to thunderwizard.com, check out all of the different types of ways that you can subscribe and support this channel. This one happens to be, I don't know what level she's at, but one of my newer subscribers there. And let me just see if I can find the question and read it because it's a good question. Having to do with rune divinations. How does rune divination work? It's important we understand how this mechanism works in order to be able to get the most out of it. So that's what I'm going to do here in a second when I find, okay, here it is. All right, so here is the message. It says, hello, Michael. I really want to thank you for your work. I've learned so much from your videos. Nice. Thank you for saying that. Let me get to the question here. My question was regarding, and then mentions a person. So she says, my question was regarding a spiritual teacher that I've been working with lately. And I won't get into the specifics, but she drew 3 runes asking about this person and wanted to know my interpretation of the specific runes that she had drawn about wanting to know the intentions of a particular person in her life. And I wrote back and I said, I don't recommend doing this kind of divination. And the short answer is because runes and rune divination cannot be separated from your own unconscious. And so understanding the mechanism of how the runes channel information to you and through you is extremely important. And then you need to know about how and why and in what conditions you should be having rune readings, conducting rune divination. So I said, I don't recommend doing this kind of divination. So I didn't answer her question, and it wasn't because I didn't want to, but because I didn't think that it would be in her best interest to do so. Let me explain to you why. So let's talk about runes and how they work. So runes, and this is going to be true with anything, whether it's runes or whether it's tarot or whether it's the I Ching or pretty much anything. You don't want to be making rune divinations for yourself all the time. You don't want to be doing that. And you may be thinking, how can I get through life that way? Well, you have this thing called your intuition, and you have this thing called observation. Those are the things that you should be using. If you can't trust your own intuition, which sometimes you can't because you have an emotional attachment and you're not sure. So I can understand that. But you have this other thing called observation. And observation requires that you are emotionally detached. You watch and observe without emotional attachment on the result. And then you're going to find out, when it comes to people, relationships. I used to do relationship, I used to do the phone psychic thing years ago, when I was really putting my channel together, and I really needed to be able to make some money. So I did this psychic phone line thing, and 98% of all of the questions that I got were women asking me about a relationship, and most of those times they were asking, how does so-and-so feel towards me? Does so-and-so love me? And those kinds of things. And then I would do rune readings on that. Now, even that was a little better because they were paying me for my time. And this is important because as somebody whose, my time is being paid for, I don't have an agenda. Whether he's good for you or bad for you, I don't have an agenda. So I could look at the runes and say, well, he might be thinking this or he might be thinking that. But the truth of the matter is, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even, if we're talking about a relationship or something important, she's talking about a spiritual teacher. And, you're going to have all kinds of emotional attachments to the outcome. If you want to know, especially about relationships, you're going to want to know, does he love me? Does she love me? You have an emotional attachment to it. Has he been cheating on me? You might have an emotional attachment to see this person as cheating on you. Now, let me break down how it works. So before I get into the rest of what you should do as opposed to what you shouldn't do. So the way that the runes work is that the runes are ways of channeling direct energy from the cosmos. And so the cosmos, as we know it, we only know 5% of the created cosmos. And that's from a scientific perspective. That includes things we can't see, like space, time, plasma, UV rays, gravity, all this kind of stuff. Stuff that we can't even in a physical way interact with. Anything that can be measured and experienced in space-time is only 5%. The other 95% is dark matter and dark energy, which we can't interact with and does not interact with light, gravity, space-time, those kinds of things. We're talking about getting energy from that part of the universe, that other 95% that we can't interact with. The runes are a way for that energy to interact and communicate with us, and in not just one way, but multiple ways. We can get energy from them. You can work with runes to get energy, to change your thought process, to change your vibrations. So rune divination is only one way to use the runes. And if I have to, I use rune divination all the time, so don't get me wrong, but if I have to put a value to it, I would say the least valuable way of using the runes is doing rune divination. What do the runes tell me about this, my future, that person? It's the least important, the least powerful way to use them. So take that into consideration. Now, the runes interact with us. We can't take ourselves out of the equation. When you're doing a rune reading, you can't take yourself out of the equation because you are the conduit through which the runes are going to communicate energy. Now, how does that happen? You've got three selves. You've got three power centers. You got your upper center, you got your lower center in your navel, and you've got your middle center, which is your soul. Anytime that somebody gets, not absolutely every time, but I would say 90% of the time. 90% of the time, at least, when somebody is getting psychic information, they're intuiting information, about things they can't possibly know. This is coming from their navel center. It's coming from their lower self. Your lower self also houses your unconscious mind. The word unconscious means you are not conscious of it. You can't control it. I got, somebody was asking me, I can't remember exactly what it was, but somebody that I was working with, for whatever reason, she stopped working with me. I don't remember. Some people just disappear on me. This was one of those people that just disappeared on me. Might have been because I said this to her. But she wanted to know about her abilities, and, I made it clear that because she had taken some readings about herself and wanted similar to this, wanted my input on it. And I said, you can't trust that. She said, what do you mean I can't trust it? And I said, well, you're asking a question about yourself that you have a strong attachment to. In other words, how can I win the lottery? Am I going to win the lottery? Those kinds of things. Does he love me? Does he want to marry me? These are things you have strong emotional attachments to. I said, you can't trust that. And then she said something, well, but the runes are, coming from the gods. And I said, yes, that's true. She says, so how come I can't trust them? And I said, because when you put the runes down, whether you're using cards or rune staves or whatever it is, when you put the runes down after you've thrown out your question, and it's a question about your life, when am I going to get this, and when is he going to, something that you have a strong attachment to, what ends up happening is that you ask the question and the universe gives you an answer. That answer will come to your higher self, which will then send it to your lower self. And then your lower self actually picks the cards. So you think, you're shuffling and all that. And, I've done this before where I'm shuffling and a card will come just flying out of the deck. And I go, oh, okay, that card needs to be put. So I'll put that card down. But the reason why that happens is that your unconscious mind knows exactly how many cards are in this deck, and your unconscious mind knows which one is there. Now, I consciously don't know. I'm going to guess Rido. Nope, it's El Haj. But my unconscious mind knows this is El Haj. Knows if it's right side up or upside down. Your unconscious mind is able to tap into everything around you. Your unconscious mind is what creates your universe and gives you all kinds of, But unless you are really in tune with your unconscious and you have no agendas and your unconscious mind is clean, and most people's, including my own, most people's unconscious are not completely wiped clean, which means that you have an agenda. Now, your desires, I want him to love me, I want this, I want that, I deserve this, the universe treats me this way. These are all lodged in your unconscious mind. Now, the one way that you can be able to take rune readings and be able to have some measure of trust in them is when somebody's paying you money. This is why, I offer, if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, you'll see that I offer rune divination courses and certification. That is for somebody who wants to make a living as a rune reader. Now, I do, some rune readings, and a lot of my apprentices will, for their monthly session, will ask me to do a rune reading for them, based on their question. And I'm happy to do that, and I trust that because I don't have an agenda. The other thing I do when I'm doing a reading is I'll say, think of your question. If you have a question, think of it, but don't tell me about it. I don't want to know. Don't tell me ahead of time because I don't want to be influenced. I just say, tell me when you're ready. And they think about it and take however long they need to form the question in their mind. And then they go, okay, I'm ready. And then I'll put the runes out, and then I will interpret the runes as I see them without knowing what the question is. That way, I don't have an agenda. And that way, because I don't have an agenda, my lower self is able to tell my hand which rune cards to pull out, even though I can't see them, and put them in front of me, and then I'll be able to interpret them. And then that way, I am of benefit to my client because they're getting a reading without me. I'm just the conduit. I have no, my unconscious mind isn't doing anything other than just listening, because it's just waiting. It doesn't have a need to, for the answer to be one way or another. It's just waiting for the universe to tell it which cards to pull out, right? So when you are doing rune readings for yourself, and I do it for myself all the time, but I never take the outcome seriously, and I'll go, well, we'll see if that's true or not. And I got to tell you, at least half of the time, which is a coin flip, at least half of the time, the runes end up being 100% wrong when I'm asking questions about my life. How is this date going to go? When am I going to make more money? How will this thing be? Those kinds of questions having to do with things I have an attachment to. So I've learned I just don't pay any attention to it, especially ones having to do with, I don't even do rune readings anymore about, romance. I've just given up on that because I, like everybody else, have such an attachment. Or the other thing is you may have an unconscious fear. So let me give you one example of another reason why you shouldn't do a rune reading for yourself. You go out on a date with somebody and you want to know, is it going to work out? Well, you may not know because this is your unconscious. Remember, your unconscious is you're not aware of it. You have your conscious mind, which you are aware of the thoughts in your conscious mind, the feelings, your intentions. You're aware of those. You're not aware of what's going on in your unconscious, which is why, people who have challenges in their life and I don't understand what's going on. I'm doing all the right things, but nothing is working. That's because you have unconscious self-sabotage going on, and you're not aware of it, and you're acting in ways that are sabotaging, and you don't know how you're doing that. So if somebody says, I want to know, is so-and-so going to marry me? And they have an unconscious fear of intimacy. Consciously, they think, oh, he's the one, but on an unconscious level, they're actually afraid. They're afraid of being truly loved and truly seen. Well, there's a chance that they may end up putting out their fears. What is his intentions? You're going to find out, oh my God, he's lying to me and cheating on me. And you can't trust that. So the only way that I know of to almost guarantee, and even then I'm not going to say 100%, but almost guarantee that you're not going to influence the reading is when somebody's paying you money. When somebody pays you money for a reading, your need has been met. Right? You're going to charge X amount of money per reading or X amount of money per hour or whatever it is. Your needs have been met. Your expectations, your attachments, your agenda has been met. Now you're open and free to let the gods do what they want. And you don't have an attachment to the outcome. That's why, I wouldn't do readings for friends either. Same kind of thing, because a friend, you have an agenda. You want them to like you. You want them to love you. You want them to think good of you. Family members too. You want them to like you. You don't want to offend them. What if the reading comes up and it says something they're not going to want to hear? You're not going to want to tell them that. So I'm not saying don't do readings for friends and family. I'm just saying do it for entertainment. And then everybody after the reading go, well, we'll see what happens. And you'll find out if you're right or not. But don't impose that onto anything. Now, this one spoke to me because she's working with a spiritual teacher. And so spiritual teachers, you're working with them, you're going to have the same kind of psychological dynamic with them that you do with therapists. And, what happens, the reason why therapists, by the way, by law, cannot have any kind of personal interaction with their clients, even on a friendship level, is for this very reason. It is because the therapist is in a place of power. And what ends up happening when somebody starts seeing a therapist, this is true with spiritual teachers as well. So all of you who even work with me, this is why I don't let you, email me, or I don't accept, I get people wanting to be my friend on Facebook all the time, and I never accept them as my friend on Facebook. Because, that's, besides the fact that I'm a very private person, besides that, that's, people want to have a personal relationship with their teacher. That is expected. A good spiritual teacher, as well as a therapist, expects that the client is going to transfer and project onto them. So the fact, what draws you to a spiritual teacher is that on an unconscious level, you have childhood feelings that you are transferring onto them. And this is always good in the beginning, because in the beginning, then that opens you up for the teacher to teach you things you may not want, you might not be ready for, but you're willing to listen because the teacher's giving it to you. But there's always a pendulum swing. After you've been working with a teacher for a while and you've enjoyed the, thinking that they're everything and looking at them like a divine parent, at some point you're going to run into actually starting to connect with them, in which case oftentimes that results in you rebelling. And this is when I lose students all the time. I lose students when they're on the verge of really being my student. Because the moment that they're able to have their negative feelings for me and in a constructive way share those feelings. And what I mean by constructive? A constructive way is in a paid session. When they have a paid session with me and they paid for my time, then they tell me, you know, I'm upset with you because of this, or I don't like that you said that, or I think this about you, and they bring out their negative feelings. In which case, then I'll go, good, now you're ready to become my student. And they're like, what are you talking about? I just told you that I didn't like you for this and I'm angry with you for that. And I said, that's good, because now you don't have an agenda. And now what's happening is that you're able to deal with your unresolved anger and issues that you had towards your parent, which allows you to separate. When you can see me as a human being with flaws, and you can, you're no longer seeing me as this perfect teacher, but as this human being with flaws, then you're now able to take what I tell you and go and work on it without any of your unconscious issues getting in the way. You know, it's not about pleasing me or about proving anything to me. It's about taking the instruction I give you and then you going and doing it and then learning for yourself. And so when it comes to rune divination and you're doing a rune reading on your teacher, what are his intentions? Can I trust him? You can't trust that, because you have an emotional agenda. You probably have a conscious agenda. Probably you have a conscious agenda to want to believe that this person is telling you the truth and is trustworthy and X, Y, and Z. But you may have an unconscious agenda as well. You may have an unconscious fear of finding out the truth. So you might put a reading out and the reading will tell you that you can't trust this teacher and they're out to get you and all that. And that could be your fear that's coming out in the reading. Because again, you're doing a rune reading based on your desires. Now, the reason why this happens is because the unconscious mind, remember, the unconscious mind is the one that's picking the card, picking the rune. If the unconscious mind, if you have an attachment or an agenda, the unconscious mind is not going to be able to tell the difference between what you want or what you're afraid of and what energy is coming to you. That's why, like I said, it's best to get paid, because when you get paid, your agenda is met. You don't want anything else. You've got what I want for my hour is X amount of money. Now that I got that, okay, fine. I don't care what the outcome is. I'm open to seeing whatever it is. Yes, he's going to marry you. No, he's not. Right? So it's really important, the more powerful way to use runes is not for divination. The more powerful way to use runes is for your own empowerment, to chant the rune, to meditate on the rune. And, so what I would recommend is, in any situation, like let's take the question about, can I trust this spiritual teacher? What are his intentions? First off, one of the reasons I don't like that question also is because that takes your... First thing that goes on in my mind is it makes me wonder, does this person have a professional relationship with their teacher? Because if you're paying money for a teacher to help you, then the moment that stops serving you and the moment that you feel uncomfortable, and this can work against you, but the moment things don't go the way you want, you're going to be out of there, because you're not going to pay money to somebody when you don't want what they're giving to you. But the other thing is that spiritual teachers are human. So every spiritual teacher has an agenda, and there always has to be an exchange of energy, always. So if you're working with a spiritual teacher for free, that's a bad sign. That means that teacher has shame about their gift because they don't have enough respect for the spiritual gift that's coming through them to force you to sacrifice for that. Because that's the idea. When you traditionally, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Whenever you go to a teacher, whether it's you're bringing them a blanket or tobacco or something, you're bringing them some kind of a gift in exchange for them channeling the ancestors, the gods, whatever it is that they do. And so the Western world is really suffering from this because there's no shortage of people out there that think that, and I get this all the time. People tell me that I'm, a bad spiritual teacher, or I can't be trusted, or what is it that I'm superficial, or because I'm all about the money, or I charge. If I was truly a teacher, I wouldn't charge. And, forgetting about the fact that I'm a human and I got to pay the bills. Forget about that. This is my living. I got to pay the bills. Take that out of it. What they don't understand is that if you're working with a spiritual teacher, it's because you think that they have an ability to transmit some spiritual knowledge to you from some other realm. And that other realm will not show up if you don't come with a sacrifice. This is why, when you do rituals, you offer some kind of a sacrifice. You offer, a glass of meat, or you offer a fire. Fire is energy that's being given, and you pour the oils into the fire so that the scent will go up and will please the gods. There has to be some kind of exchange, otherwise nothing happens. The only relationship that exists where there isn't an exchange of energy is between the mother and the infant. If you want to have a relationship where somebody's completely giving to you for free and wants nothing in return, then you're going to have to be born as an infant. You're going to have to be reborn as an infant and enjoy that. And, you better pick a good mom who doesn't have all kinds of emotional issues, who can be that for you. And that is why initially people seek after a spiritual teacher, because on an unconscious level, they want that parental support. They don't realize it, but that's what they want. They want mommy and daddy. And this is why there are so many people in the Western world that think that any teacher who requires some kind of a payment is, a bad spiritual teacher. They don't realize that in that moment, the presumption that they have, where that they think that if somebody is spiritual, they'll want to give to them for nothing other than just because you're here and I want to help you. I mean, the childishness about it, where you don't even realize that person has needs. That teacher has needs. To not see them as having needs is what an infant does with a parent. I see, what people do with God. And so any teacher who allows themselves to have any kind of relationship that is not professional, if they allow themselves to have a personal relationship with you, or if they allow themselves to not take anything in exchange for what you want, it means they want something from you. So be prepared for that. And to chase after teachers who want to be with you and don't want to and aren't requiring something from you, it means that they have an agenda. Now you think, oh, they're so spiritual, but all of these cult leaders, whether it's Jim Jones or whether it's, name it, what you'll find is that the teacher will have an interaction with the student, and there isn't any exchange of energy. There isn't any exchange of money. And then you end up finding out that teacher sexually abused people or had secret affairs or these kinds of things. Now, it's one thing if you're friend with somebody who's a teacher. That's a different thing. You have a friendship. They also are a teacher, but you get where I'm going with this. So you've got to, when you're doing rune readings, if you want to get answers that you can trust, you have to be in a scenario where you don't have an emotional agenda, so that your lower self can be clean. Okay? All right. So I just wanted to answer that question. So let me go over the question again, and then with all this understanding, now you can say it. It says, I want to, this person asks, I was wondering if you could give me guidance with the runes I just drew. I won't say what those runes are. Said, I have questioned, I've been a spiritual teacher I've been working with lately, and I've felt unsure of their motives, and I'm wondering what their intentions are. And then she gives me the runes. I'm not going to read them because I'm not going to even get into that, because as I said, that's not the way to judge a spiritual teacher. If the spiritual teacher is, it makes me want to ask this person, what is your relationship with this teacher? Are they charging you? How did you come across them? Did you find them and say, I want to work with you? Or did they come to you? Was it a friendship first, or what was it? Because, what worries me is that you don't know what the teacher's intentions are. People don't ask that question if they're paying somebody. When you pay somebody, you automatically know what their intentions are. Their intentions are to work to help you because you just paid them. So this makes me think that this is somebody that they don't have a professional relationship with, which is why they're not sure of their motives. And when somebody, wants to, call them up and say, hey, I'm your teacher and I was just thinking about you and I have this and you need to do that and you need to do this and you need to be this way and you need to be that way, then I would start worrying about their intentions. For instance, I never give away information unless somebody asks. If somebody asks me, like on this today, if we end up getting any people on who write questions, if somebody wants to ask me, wants to know something, they have to ask me a question. Otherwise, and people in my life, if somebody's in my life, I don't offer advice, even if I know what they need to do, because it's a personal interaction and they haven't asked me for that. And there's a whole different part of me that's interacting with them. Anyway, I'm getting kind of lost. So again, I'm looking at this and it makes me wonder what, the relationship is, because you're having these doubts. And again, if you were paying somebody money and you had doubts, you wouldn't pay them. This is why money proves everything. People come to me and they tell me up and down how serious they are. They'll do anything, and I'll say, great. If you want to work with me, here's what I charge per session. I never hear from them again. Oh, well, I got to go save up, or well, I can't. I know that they're not serious. If you're really serious and you're willing to do anything, then you're going to pay me for my time. And then the universe is going to respond by rewarding you for your sacrifice. Now, of course, the money goes into my pocket and I pay my bills or buys me food or whatever. But the universe goes, that person just sacrificed to us. We're going to give them something in return. That may be coming through me and the wisdom or the knowledge that I give. But even if that's not the case, it's going to come from the universe. The universe will respond and give them something. So there's a consequence. There's always a back and forth. But anyways, like I said, it makes me wonder what their connection is. And the first thing that makes me want to, if I had this person on the phone and they were to say, I wanted to know what the intentions are of my teacher, I would say, hang on, well, what kind of arrangement do you have? Are you paying this person money? And if the answer is no, then I would say, well, then you shouldn't be in any kind of student-teacher relationship with somebody who isn't wanting you to pay them for their time, right? Now, it's another thing if a spiritual teacher wants to give away a gift. But if you give away a gift, you give it away and then you walk away from it. You don't hang around and try and get something out of it. And I've done that before. I've done, there's things that I've done. The universe has given me some kind of feeling that, this is some kind of karmic debt I owe to somebody. And so in those times, I will give them something, and I've given away readings and things like that to people who I felt I had a karmic connection. But then I let go. I don't go chasing after them for anything after that. So I don't, just the question makes me not trust that the boundaries are clear between you and this teacher, which may say why you have such doubts about him. Anyway, I feel like I'm babbling. This is a question and answer. If you have questions, I will be happy to take them. If not, that's fine too. So while we're waiting for the questions, the 90-day challenge. Let me talk about the 90-day challenge. So in the 90-day challenge, here I am doing a lot of talking, right? And a lot of people come onto my channel to hear me talk, which is great. All this talking is to get you to do the work to change your vibration of your energy. When the energy in you, when your vibration changes to such a degree that you are able to vibrate on a higher level, that's going to give you power to put energy towards your intentions and take actions towards them. That is one of the ways you're going to be able to overcome your unconscious resistance to your own evolution. So I recommend checking that out, going to thunderwizard.com, click on whatever buttons you need to get to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. And in that, instead of listening to me talk, I do a little bit of talking, but mostly what happens is you press play and you do the exercises with me. In the morning, we need to stimulate the Kundalini, which is the spiritual energy within the body that connects you to your humanity that wants to evolve to its highest level. Okay, so the Kundalini is not the energy that gives you liberation. In fact, it does the opposite. Kundalini attaches you to the earth. But what it does is it gives you the ability to evolve in your human state. So we do some yogic exercises, very simple, anybody can do them, which will open up the heart center and get the Kundalini up and opening in the heart center, which allows you to connect to your soul. Your soul has the answer for where you need to go and what you need to do. Soul has that answer. And so the difference between living a life full of confusion, pain, chaos, that is you responding out of your human limitations like fear, people pleasing, greed, desire to be loved and accepted. Those are all normal human things, but when we operate solely from that, then we end up sabotaging and limiting ourselves. Your soul has a desire. You were incarnated in this physical body that you have, and your soul is sitting there and it has something it wants to achieve. It has something it wants to do. And the way you know you're listening to your soul is when you think about that thing, you are filled with joy. Now, very often that joy will only last a split second. And usually what happens is people go, oh my God, I can change the world. If I do this, that is when they're full of inspiration, their joy is talking to them. But then all the other things I talked about kick in. Your fear, your shame, your desire to be loved, your desire to be accepted, all these things kick in, and then you talk yourself out of it. So when you're full of the joy and inspiration, you think, oh my God, I found it. I'm always going to feel this way. It's really great. And then you go to sleep, you wake up the next day and you go, what the hell was I thinking? I was going to go, what? Oh my God, I can't do that. And then you forget about it. So this morning practice that I have in here, there's a morning practice, a midday, and a nighttime practice. The morning practice connects you to your soul and allows you to align with your soul desire. And then it allows you to expand on that, and it will make that window between your soul desire and your unconscious resistance. It'll give a bigger window so you have more of a connection. And then in the midday practice, you get to go back and you get to reassess. How have I been thinking? How have my thoughts been responding? Has there been any negative thoughts that have come in that are trying to take me away from where I know I need to go? And so there's a meditation to help you get the three selves we already talked about lined up. And then there's the nighttime practice. And here's where we really go in and do some deep digging and do a whole, reconstruction of your unconscious mind. Remember, your unconscious mind, you're not aware of, and it's making all of the decisions for you. It also has all of the power. Your unconscious mind literally creates universes. So all of that power needs to be focused and aligned with your soul. If it's not aligned with your soul, then all of that energy, the energy of the whole universe, is going to go creating who knows what. And if you've got all kinds of, misinformation and challenges and blocks in your unconscious, then your unconscious mind is going to create that hell for you. So we need to reprogram it. And for that we use Qigong, which is pure life force energy, the energy of the matrix that surrounds you, the infinity of that. You change the vibration of your cells, every part of you. Just by doing the Qigong, your unconscious starts to let go of things and vibrate on a higher level. So I do a Qigong practice over time, which connects the heart and I'm touching my navel, the heart and the lower self, so that your lower self will get rid of those blocks, and you'll be able to take that energy from your heart and instruct your lower self to go out and create what you want. And then there's a mantra practice, and if I haven't given you a mantra, which if I have, go ahead and do that one. But the mantra practice, even if you don't have one, you can just follow me because I chant one. You can just chant one with me. You don't even have to have the mala or anything, because I chanted at least 108 times to some really cool drum music, by the way. And so you can do your Qigong and then do your mantra with me. The combination of Qigong and mantra, in my experience, and I don't know any other teacher out there who teaches this particular combination of Qigong energy and mantra creates, it increases the power of your ability to intend by hundreds, if not thousands of times. And so that's available to you. That's the 90-day challenge anyway. So let's see if there's any questions. I know it's in the middle of the night everywhere in the world, but let's see. We've got Yanka's there. Hello. Renee is there. Hi, guys. And then Barani says, question, how do I best get in touch with you for a private session? So, do you see next to me all of these links? I have to tell you, it's frustrating because I have the links up there. I haven't they've been up there the whole time. So people do tend to tune them out. But if you had followed those links, you would know how to get a private session with me. Having said that, I'll tell you one of the ways to get a private session with me. You can go to career.thunderwizard.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and then there is a PayPal button, and you can purchase a session with me. Other than that, if you want to have a session with me, then you can become an apprentice, and an apprentice can have a session with me anywhere from once a month to 4 times a month. So you signed up to become an apprentice last month. No, there's multiple levels. So if you signed up to be a $25, again, you have to forgive me, but it doesn't sound like you really put effort into understanding what you got. If you signed up as 108, are you paying the 100? I'll just ask, you can answer. Are you paying the $108 a month or more? How much are you paying per month for your apprenticeship? Before I say anything else, I'll just let you answer that. So now I have to wait for the lag time for you to get that. And then I have to wait for you to go ahead and type that in. So tell me, how much is your apprenticeship per month? And then I'll be able to better answer your question before I just go into and launch in my frustration on you. So how much? Parani. Okay, I don't see a response here. So you're an apprentice. If you're a $25 apprentice, that doesn't get you a session with me. That gets you access to all of the videos in the Mastery of Shamanism course. Now, if you're paying attention, you know that already. So if you don't know that, then something's up. You're not paying attention to the information that's out there. If you're at the, so you signed up for 108. All right, so why haven't you messaged me? And how long ago is this? I signed up to be on a last month. So it's been last month and you've been waiting around for me to contact you and give you a session? That's not how it works. You should have contacted me as soon as you signed up and sent me a message and said, hey, I'm a brand new apprentice. When are we going to have a session? So what is the name that you signed up under? Because I don't recognize that name. Bharani, I don't recognize that name. But it's frustrating to me because if it was last month, and this is the, how long has it been, a week or two? That's frustrating to me because that's a very easily solved problem. When you sign up, you should send me a message through the Patreon site. There's a way to do that. People can, that's one way people can email me. In fact, I'm responding. This whole video I'm responding is somebody who sent me a message. And I don't know what level they're signed up at, but I don't think it's at your level. So I'm waiting back for you. Anyway, here's the thing to do. On Patreon, send me a message because I don't recognize that name. And when you do, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to give you the website to go and schedule the session. You schedule the session. I don't schedule it. Benjamin Shalek. All right, so I remember that name. So, okay, so you messaged me your birth information. All right, so then I don't know what happened. If that's my fault, I apologize. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to message you and give you the website to go to schedule the session. And then we'll take it from there. So I don't know what happened. I'll just go ahead and take the blame and say I screwed up. My apologies. So since you signed up last month, I'll go ahead and give you 2 sessions this month. Okay? So from here on out, things should be clear. I'm going to message you on Patreon. And I'm going to give you the link to my my scheduling website, and then you'll schedule the sessions, okay? And I'm going to give you 2 sessions this month because you signed up last month, okay? It's usually once per month. So again, my apologies if I gave you a hard time. I'll just go ahead and assume that it was my fault and I got my wires crossed. So forgive me for that. All right, that was embarrassing. Let's see what else. I don't have anything else to say. I really wanted to focus on the best way to get the runes to work for you is when you don't have an agenda. And the only way that you can be free of agenda is when you are doing a rune reading for somebody else who has paid for your time. Other than that, you run the risk of, your unconscious mind, giving you a wrong reading. The other thing I wanted to say is when it comes to the runes, the best way to use the runes is to use them to empower yourself. So this same question, let's just say this person says, I want to know what the motivation is of this spiritual teacher I'm working with. Now, since you obviously have an agenda because that's your spiritual teacher, we don't know. Again, spiritual teachers can hit you in different ways. A spiritual teacher, if you're, treating them as a student, then what's going to happen is they are going to stimulate your resistance. So I deal with this all the time. At least half of what I do with my clients is I'm dealing with their resistance and helping them to battle their resistance to their evolution. And one of the ways that comes out is they see me as the enemy, and they want to fight with me about this or that, or they don't trust me. And you'd be surprised the crap that just gets dumped on me. But that's okay. If you're paying me for my time, that's okay. On a personal note, I don't like it so much. But if you're paying me for the time, that's my job, is to be able to be there and reflect back without agenda. But one of the best things to do is, if you're in that, you're working with a teacher and you're like, I don't know what their motivation is or what their intentions are. So you do a reading with the runes and you ask the runes, show me what I need to do within myself to be able to align myself the best way I can. In other words, if the rune comes up, let's say this one, Tiwaj comes up. Tiwaj represents the highest awareness. Represents your highest awareness. So if you say, show me what I need in order to best interact with the intentions of my teacher. Now, you're not assuming if he has good or negative intentions towards you. You don't know. You just want the universe to tell you, what do I need to do to align myself in the best way? So for example, let's say he has negative intentions and you don't know that. You ask the universe, what do I need in order to best interact with them? And this rune comes up, Tiwaj. It means you need to be in your highest awareness, because that's what Tiwaj means. And so you would then seek to become aware of your agendas. What are you projecting onto him? What is your highest awareness here? You become aware of what your boundaries are. For instance, if he's working with you, you've come to him as a teacher, and he's working with you, and you don't have a professional relationship, but he's calling you all the time, or you feel like he wants something from you, then you need to be in your highest awareness to know how to set up the boundaries so that the boundaries are clear. Let's now assume that his intentions are pure and that he just wants to be helpful to you. Well, then that rune of Tiwaj would mean you need to get in your highest awareness to become aware of your unconscious resistance to your own awareness. And you could be responding to him out of your fear and out of your unconscious sabotage for your highest awareness. Okay? So that would be one way to do it. You're not asking the runes to tell you, what is he thinking about me, or what are his intentions. You're taking responsibility, and you're saying, what is it that I need to do to align myself with him in such a way that will work out best for me and best for them. And you may come to the conclusion, hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable about this. I'm going to distance myself. Or you may come to realize, you know what? I've been coming at this all wrong, and I haven't been interacting in the best way. So that is the best way to use the runes. I'm going to tell you something else about the runes that I've found out when it comes to divination. The runes represent energy in the universe. The runes are not like, in other words, I haven't figured out a way. I don't think the runes work like this. But for instance, somebody wanting to know what numbers they need in order to win the lottery, right? So trying to use the runes that way, the runes don't work like that. And you can't use the runes to predict things in a finite manner. So for instance, when 3 years ago, my fiance was battling cancer, I wanted to know, is she going to live or is she going to die? Obviously, I was in love with her. She was my fiance. I wanted her to live, clearly. And so I would do readings every single day. Is she going to live or is she going to die? And for instance, I would get runes that would come up like this. So I'd get this rune that would come up. Yuhuaj, which is the rune of life and death, from death to life. That could mean anything. On the one hand, it can mean personal transformation, because every time that you go through You get an awareness, you go through a life and death experience. A shamanic initiation is a life and death experience. You go from, who you were, you die to who you were, and you awaken to your new self. Traditionally, shamans would have near-death experiences. They might even die and come back. They might get struck by lightning and then die and come back. So this can mean healing in that way. It can mean physical death, but it means that physical death is just transformation. But the only person that's making the judgment about life and death is me in my limited state. And my fiance isn't dead. She's something else now. She's just not human anymore. I think she's still around helping me out, but she's not human anymore. So she went through transformation. But it can mean psychological transformation. So you can't use the runes in that way. Sometimes it works that way and sometimes it doesn't. For instance, let me give you another one. Where's the one I'm looking for? I'm looking for Othal. So, Othal comes up. Othal means inheritance. It also means grounding. So when this comes up, it might mean you're going to get a new house. But it can also mean that you're going to get grounded. It can also mean you're going to get some money. It could also mean that you're going to find out your true essence deep within yourself, which is your inheritance. It's an energy. It's not a tangible physical thing. The runes don't see you as just a human. The runes see you as this energetic being that is housed in a body, but your soul came from somewhere and is going somewhere. You're in a transformational process. And so the runes don't see you anything more than that. They don't see you just as human. So you have to take this and, what does this mean for my soul? My soul's never going to die, right? When it comes to, let's talk about another one. This one wants to keep coming up, so let's talk about this one. The Yera rune. Yera rune can mean marriage. It can also mean business partnership. It can mean, working through issues and problems, because the two Kenaj runes are like a gear moving forward. In fact, the word gear, G-E-A-R, is the same word for year, Y-E-A-R, just different pronunciations. It's called a year because the months come together like a gear and move forward. The months, one month move into the next. The seasons move into the next. It's a gear. Year, gear, it's the same word. So the year is the progression of the months, the progression of the seasons. So that can mean all kinds of things. Here's, what everybody's looking for is this one. They want this one, fehu, which means cattle. And the pre-Christian Germanic tribes used cows for money. They didn't have money, they used cows. We use the word fee today. When somebody wants something from me, I charge them a fee. Fee comes from the word fehu, which means cow. That's been in existence for at least a couple thousand years. The people who still, my ancestors, you can trace that all the way back. Somebody would say, hey, I need you to come over and could you fix my roof? Or could you build me a house? Sure. How many cows for a house? 2 cows. I'll give you 2 cows if you build me a house, right? So fehu can mean money, but it's an energy. And the energy of fehu is resources of any kind. So you can get this rune of fehu. Fehu can come up, meaning that you're going to get resources, but you might not necessarily get any money. But you might get resources where you end up getting free housing, or you get a car, or you end up with a car and the house and the food, but you don't have any money in your bank account. You still have fehu, you still have resources working for you. It can also just mean feeling supported, feeling empowered. Fehu comes up. It's an energy. So we have to look at the runes in terms of energy. So again, that question of, what is so-and-so's intentions, I can't say that's a wrong question to ask, and I can't say you can't do a reading on it, because sometimes, if you're under the right conditions, especially if you've got a teacher and you're doing that, or you're paying somebody for a reading, you might get a good answer. But again, if somebody were to ask me that question, if I had a student who said, I'm working with a teacher and I want to know what their intentions are, let's take a reading, I would say, instead of taking a reading, why don't we talk about it? Tell me about them. What's your connection? What's the relationship like? And then I would be looking to see if the teacher was abusive, or if they were unconscious, or if they had bad boundaries, or those kinds of things. That's a much better way of looking at it. In terms of the energy, the best way to ask it is, like I said, how can I know what energies I need within myself in order to figure out the best connection with this particular teacher? Okay, so I think I beat that horse to death. Are there any other questions? All right, so let's see. Careless said, question. I think I answered your question. Oh, no, that's a different question. Could you please tell us more about phase 2 of 90-Day Warrior Challenge? I have just started phase 1 and love it so far. Well, I haven't put up phase 2 yet. My plan is to, we've focused on the soul desire, right? In phase 1, you've started it and you love it so far. So good. I'm glad it's working for you. This is, by the way, even if you just did phase 1 forever, you'd be fine. So let me just be clear about that. The phase 2, we're dealing with 3 different energy centers, right? So we've started here, we've opened up this one, getting you connected to your soul desire and taking actions on it. And, I don't want to give it away yet, but we're gonna take that more deeply into different aspects of the 3 selves. And ultimately what I want is to help you get to a place that I have gotten to numerous times, which is there have been times when and I like to work to stay in this, and I do have a method where I can get to there. Sometimes, it's like physical fitness. Sometimes you can stay physically fit, and then sometimes, you have to work and train and get back into, prime fitness again. But ideally, I want to help you get to the place where you can completely intend your reality. Just by intending it. And I've shared this story numerous times. I'll share it again. Again, this was with my fiance, who has since passed, but we were out to lunch one day, and I don't remember what we were talking about. She was really awesome. She would sit there and she would just love to ask me questions about this and listen to me go off. She was so great for my ego. But I don't remember what we were talking about, but she said, you're not human. I said, what are you talking about? Of course I'm human. She said, no, you're not. She says, you can just simply think things into reality. 2 weeks ago, you were complaining about some things that were going on in your life, and it was impossible. We were both racking our brains how to fix this thing, and there was just no way to fix it. And then you sat there and you said, what I want is, and then you listed off what you wanted, and then you stopped. And then we went on and we talked about something else, and boom, 2 weeks later, you have exactly what you said you wanted. And I stopped and I realized she was right. I hadn't even thought about it. Because what had happened is I had learned, without realizing it, I had learned how to intend my reality. And what I learned to do was to get honest about what I truly wanted. Now, you may sit there and say, well, I do that all the time. Maybe, maybe not. What I've come to find out is that I'm oftentimes in conflict with what I want. And more often than not, what will happen is my soul will want something that I will think I don't deserve, or I don't think is possible, or I'll have some guilt about it, or I'll have some moral judgment about it. There's been some things that I've been some things I've been doing in my life that previously I would have moral judgments about. And when I really stopped and I said, my soul really wants this, and my soul really enjoys this. So if my soul really likes this, then why am I judging myself for it? And I got through that phase. I'm no longer enjoying those activities, but now I'm glad I did. It had a really powerful healing effect on me, on all kinds of different ways. So what I've learned to do over the years is, when I'm not happy, it means I'm in conflict with myself. That my soul is telling me I want something and I am denying it on an unconscious level out of fear, out of guilt, out of false humility, false morality, those kinds of things. So when I'm in conflict and I'm complaining, it doesn't matter what it is, rent, something. It means I'm in conflict, because if I stay in constant vibration of my soul, I will always have anything and everything that I need and want. It's the way the universe works. And so I learned how to stop and go, okay, what is it that I want? And apparently I did that. I don't remember doing it, but the way she described it, that's what I did. I was complaining about it, we were talking about it, and I was complaining, and I stopped and I said, okay, what I want is, and then I verbally stated the things that I wanted that I realized I didn't feel I deserved. Now, nobody knows that by watching me. They're just sitting, they're watching me go, I want this, I want this, I want this. But what they're not seeing is that I am realizing that I have been judging myself and I have been not allowing myself to have everything I really want because I didn't feel like I deserved it. And then what I did was I said, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then I went, okay. And then I was ready to move on and completely forget about it. Now, she didn't understand what I was doing at the time, but that's what I was doing. And I didn't even realize it because it had become a habit. But, now again, I know if I'm able to go for a walk on the beach, and I do this, on a daily basis, I'll go walking on the beach. But if if I'm uncomfortable, even if I'm just bored, I'll go, what is it that I want? And I'll take a long walk to see what it is that I truly want. And then I'll examine, how do I feel about that? And I'm willing to bet, how many times do you? I deal with this all the time with my clients and with my students. When I say, what is it that you, in your fantasy, if you could be doing absolutely anything, sometimes they become aware of it, but lots of times they'll start to talk about it and then they begin to immediately start to downplay that and say, well, yeah, but that's not realistic. So instead I'll do this. And I watch them do that. I say, you just said exactly what you wanted. Why are you now talking yourself out of that? Well, because that's totally impractical, or that's totally selfish, or, where am I going to get the money for that? Or it's like, don't think about that. Let's think about, do you deserve having that? We deny ourselves what we truly want. So that's a long way of answering your question. My goal is to, instead of talking about it like I am now, I'm going to give you these exercises that you can do so that ideally you have an energetic practice that will get you to that place where you can go, I want to be a billionaire. Oh my gosh, a billionaire? I don't think that I deserve that. And how do I feel about that? To have that much money, that would mean that I'm unspiritual. That would mean that I'm insecure. That would mean, no, I'm not saying that. I've thought about that a lot myself. Like, what would I do if I was a billionaire? And I've come to the realization that, I wouldn't even know what to do with that kind of money. The truth is that right now I actually have absolutely everything I could want. Even if I sit around thinking I want to make more money. If I think about it, I've got everything that I want. And that's really the best anybody can get. So I want to help you get to that point. That's the answer to your question in a long, drawn-out fashion. So I'm glad that was helpful for you. All right, so I don't see any more questions here, so I'm going to call it an evening, because for me it is. It's 9 p.m. where I am. thank you to everybody who showed up. And go check out the 90-day challenge. If you like this channel and you want to support it, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at whatever level you want. If you do sign up and become an apprentice, don't assume I'm going to respond to the message. I'm sad that Bharani didn't continue. You know, like, hey, I messaged you last week. When are we getting together? Don't be afraid to do that under those conditions. The rest of the time, if you're not, if you're not my apprentice, please stop emailing me. I do. I get emails from people all the time that. Anyway, I say, here, go onto my channel. Yeah, I'll help you that way. Anyway, that's it for me. I wish everybody health. Isn't that crazy what's going on? Donald Trump got COVID. Talk about irony. I wish him and everybody else health and wellness, and let's all put some positive thoughts towards the whole world coming back to some sort of normalcy and safety. Hopefully we can have that. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you all next time.